Jibanananda Das. First of all, who is he, or who was he? Jibanananda Das was a Bengali poet, writer, novelist and essayist, born on the 17th of February 1899. Deeply recognized during his lifetime, today he is acknowledged as the premier poet of post-Tagorian literature in India and Bangladesh. He is considered as Bengal's greatest modern poet and best-loved poet too, his poems being regarded as part of the Bengali consciousness on both sides of the border between India and Bangladesh. Jibanananda Das wrote ceaselessly, but as he was an introvert and the most alone of Bengali poets, he compelled to suppress some of his most important writings or to locate them in a secret life. During his lifetime, only 7 of his volumes were published. After his death, it was discovered that apart from poems, he wrote several novels and a large number of short stories. His unpublished works are still being published. His philosophy. According to Jibanananda Das, poetry and life are two different outpourings of the same thing. Life as we usually conceive it contains what we normally accept as reality. But the spectacle of this incoherent and disorderly life can satisfy neither the poet's talent nor the reader's imagination. Poetry does not contain a complete reconstruction of what we call reality. I found this quote particularly fascinating as Jibanananda talks about how he believes that poetry and life are not so different from each other. He says that life is only how we imagine it to be, and the way we interpret poems is not so different. Jibanananda scholar Clinton B. Seeley has termed Jibanananda Das as Bengal's most cherished poet since Rabindranath Tagore. Many, on the other hand, find his poetry very confusing and difficult to comprehend. Indeed, Jibanananda Das's poetry is sometimes an outcome of profound feeling, painted in imagery of a type not always understandable. Sometimes the connection between the sequential lines is not obvious. In fact, Jibanananda Das broke the traditional circular structure of poetry, introduction, middle, end, and the pattern of logical sequence of words, lines, and stanzas. Consequently, the thematic connotation is often hidden under a rhythmic narrative that requires careful reading between the lines. Jibanananda conceived a poem and molded it up in the way most natural for him. When a theme occurred to him, he shaped it with words, metaphors, and imagery that distinguished him from all others. Jibanananda's poetry is to be felt rather than merely read or heard. A sense of time and history is an unmistakable element that has shaped Jibanananda Das's poetic world to a great extent. However, he lost sight of nothing surrounding him. Unlike many of his peers who blindly imitated the renowned Western poets in a bid to create a new poetic domain and generated spurious poetry, Jibanananda Das remained anchored in his own soil and time, successfully assimilating experiences, real and virtual, and producing hundreds of unforgettable lines. His intellectual vision was thoroughly embedded in Bengal's nature and beauty. Some examples of his work are Bonanata Shen, written in 1942, Shakti Tara Timir, Darkness of Seven Stars, written in 1948, and Ruposhi Bangla, Bengal the Beautiful, written in 1934, published posthumously in 1957. This great poet died on the 22nd of October, 1954, 8 days after he was hit by a tram. The witnesses say that although the tram whistled, he did not stop and got struck. Some deem the accident as an attempt of suicide. I will now recite one of his poems, in English for our non-Bengali friends. It's called Banglar Mukh, which means the face of Bengal. It's the fourth sonnet from Ruposhi Bangla, and it talks about how Bengal's beauty is incomparable to the beauty of the world, its power and uniqueness, and how it's different but special in its own way. Banglar Mukh. I have seen Bengal's face. That is why I do not seek beauty of the earth anymore. I wake up in the dark and see the dawn's magpie robin perched under the parasol-like huge leaf of the fig tree. On all sides I see mounds of leaves of black plum, banyan, jackfruit, oak, pineapple, laying still. Their shadows fall on the spurred bushes and cedary clumps. Who knows where Chan Champa from his Madhuga boat saw such oaks, banyans, gamboos, blue shades, Bengal's beauty, incomparable. Bahula too someday, floating on raft on Ganga's water, when the full moon of the tenebrous 12th night died on the river's shore, saw countless pipers and banyans beside the golden corn. Alas, heard the tender songs of Sharma, and one day going to Amara, when she danced like a torn wagtail in Indra's court, Bengal's river field, wild violets wept at her feet like anklet bells. For this presentation, I've taken information from Wikipedia and Poem Hunter to aid me with all my facts. I give myself credit too. Thank you for listening.